Welcome back to One Piece Anime Review and episode number 76. This one discussing the last 5 episodes that have been released for English dub. Episodes 862 to 866. Yes. Now, I have heard that the newest batch of episodes have been released, but they're on sale at the Microsoft store. But they cost a lot of money. They're expensive, and I'm gonna have to wait at least. I have to wait at least 2 weeks basically. Now this particular this next batch of episodes. By the way, those are episodes 867 to 878, which basically kind of starts off the Reverie arc. By the way, but I'll also include this arc. I'm going to talk about these episodes. That was actually just last week. Yeah, like not even a week ago. It was actually released just on Tuesday. It was released. So I'm presuming at some point next week we're going to see the release of these episodes. So you probably I'm hoping to get so once these episodes get released on the Funimation streaming service, I will discuss them. So these 5 episodes mostly put what happens in these episodes. Let's first continue like the last time with Luffy, where he's come back to continue so Katakuri, and he's using Observation Haki. And it lasts a pretty good period of time. We also see, while Luffy's fighting Katakuri, we see the debut of one new character. Yes, one. Charlotte Flampy, one of Katakuri's many little sisters. One of the more younger sisters. I believe she's referred to as the 33rd daughter. Excuse me. So basically, she thinks her older brother is cool. Despite the fact at this point she's not seeing what his mouth looks like. As a matter of fact, she's actually aghast what his mouth looks like. Just basically some weird teeth. Which he himself was embarrassed by that. Also, he's also got look like scars across his cheek that he basically tore his mouth up at some point. Yeah, it's not expected to read what happened to his mouth at that point. So, thinks of her as cool. She's the president of his fan club. Yeah, she's the president of her own brother's fan club. And she thinks, despite the fact that he does not think that way, if she tries to interfere in his fight with Luffy, that he'll get a pat on her head. No. Let me point something else about it. She's 15 years old. Katakuri is supposed to be 44. Yes, he is 44 years old. He is roughly 39 years older. He's actually, I think it's 39 years, actually is 29 years older than his own sister. I mean, it's more close with his own sister Breely than it is with this one. I would have to say the youngest of those siblings, who's 8, you probably see her as probably like a daughter more than a sister because she's so young at 8. Yes. So, we see also in the fight that Luffy's trying to use Observation Haki, and of course Katakuri does notice this. He says it's not incomplete, but he's using Observation Haki, which he's surprised about that. Now you might be curious though, is Luffy gonna go Gear 4 doing a Balloon Man moment? Not yet per se. They're gonna wait for that probably for the last batch episodes. And that will debut a new move for Luffy. Well, a variant of a move, which I'll get to that. I'll get to that one when we discuss the last set of episodes. But we do see debut of one big new move from character. I'll get to that. So, fight's still not finished yet. Luffy keeps getting beaten up. He gets bare mochi again. This time it's small, not a big amount. And he gets out of it. He gets out by simply punches his way through a freaking wall. Yes. And they have for quite a while. And of course, one of Flampy's men trying to shoot with a poison dart, which Luffy keeps dodging. Of course, Luffy doesn't know he's dodging it. But that's it for that one. In case you're curious, these episodes cover mostly from 888, chapter 88 to about 892. They'll cover also a little bit 894. Okay, so that's it when it comes to Luffy. In the case of Sanji, now Sanji's group has just finished making the cake. And they're on the Benji ship, and they basically decorate to basically look exactly the way it did during Teepo, which at this point they do mention it's been 12 hours since the original cake was destroyed. Yeah, 12 hours. They do mention by the time of episode 866 that is roughly just a little after midnight. Yes, so yeah. So basically, they transported over on Benji's ship, and of course, where everything's all good, they fixed it. Of course, they get to where they drop off Sanji while they have Pudding taken back on her magic carpet. Yes, seriously, yeah, one thing that talks. Transports them back. Of course, Pudding talks with her sister Clifton, which they basically talk about how the fact that she's very lucky to have a man who loves her. And thing is, despite the fact Pudding was acting, the whole thing about her being implied to be like his fiance, here's the thing. Apparently, during the course of these events, she has genuinely fallen in love with Sanji. Which makes probably the first... Now, she's probably the first person in the series to actually act the way Sanji does. Where the whole heart lovey-dovey and, of course, nose bleeding stuff. Yeah, of course, Sanji does think that Pudding is very beautiful. But apparently, after the wedding, he stopped doing the whole thing where he just passes every time he looks at her. Yeah. Though he does that more with Nami, or he does more with Nami than he does with, well, than he does with her. And he gets transported back to his own ship. But before it gets to that, we see that Big Mom has arrived on the Sunny, where she sees a damage, like, pull up part of the cab. I believe it's the guy's cabin, like, trying to open the door, damaging Sarah parts of it. Eventually get her off the ship, thanks to Jinbei gets knocked her off the ship, and then they proceed to also slice in half Zeus, thanks to, well, but I should rewind a bit. So, in 862, they basically are confronted by several fleets. We have a fleet of Dafuku, who is in front of them. Behind them is basically Perospero, and of course, Smoothie and her sisters. So, we need to get rid of this fleet in front of them, so maybe you can have Brook over there. Not just yet, per se. We see the debut of something that Nami would describe as very beautiful and mesmerizing. And of course, Jinbei describes, apparently he does know about this. Carrot goes to her Sulong form. For the first of 2 times in the entire series, she does this. The next time she would do this would actually be during the Wano arc. In the later chapters, mind you, yes. We see her transform, and it's a very good sequence. I remember at the time when this episode came out that someone described it similar to a transformation from Inuyasha. Very similar to that, where her little puffy tail that she has goes really long. Her hair goes much more longer than usual, and she needs to basically just knock everybody out, destroy like the helms of all the ships. Eventually, this goes on for about 10 minutes. Give or take, and then she goes the entire block. Brook is there to save her and run her back to the ship. Of course, Carrot is like, Nami is so happy to see her again. Asks basically she can go to sleep. Like, sure, no problem. And then that's when Big Mom gets on board, and of course Nami's like, don't pull that up because she's trying to sleep. Yeah, make all the noise you want, but don't pull that up because basically she'll die. Because apparently during the Sulong form, apparently is sort of a double-edged sword. So, then eventually we see Chopper go to Monster Point. By the way, for him, this is the second time this whole arc is actually on the Monster Point. The last time, now apparently, Perospero is in shocked fact when Chopper goes to Monster Point to briefly take on Big Mom. And eventually, they chop Zeus in half, though Brook basically gets a piece of Zeus and hands to Nami. And Nami tells him, hey Zeus, you tried to fry me, your lightning. Your punishment has become my slave. Yes, seriously, she does this. Well, basically, is her servant, but basically her slave. And Zeus basically hangs out with Nami even after this arc is completed, and does briefly leave her during the Wano arc, but he stays even afterwards. He's not currently active in the most recent arc of the series, but he's with Nami. So, yeah, there's that. So then Sanji gets back on board. Yeah, most of the Straw Hats reunited, except for Luffy. But meanwhile, though, Big Mom has also been known by Perospero that she's getting thinner. Like, apparently it's been years since she's been this thin. I'm like... Well, not only that, but also the fact that she's all apparently jumping around. This is a woman who's actually in her mid-60s. Yeah, a woman who's 66 years old, and here she is jumping around like she's a woman in her 20s. Yeah. It is interesting though, Big Mom is not one of these main villains who actually comes to the Straw Hat ship. Now, the last villain is, at this point in the series, was Doflamingo. Yep, he's the last one. Now, you might be curious though, when they encounter Kylo next arc, does he ever actually see or step foot on the Sunny? No, he doesn't. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, none of the villains actually go to the Straw Hat ship. Yeah, none do, which is quite strange to say the least. Like, you could say at this point in time, Big Mom is the last known main villain to actually step foot on the Sunny. Because these following villains, it has happened to them. The first, I believe, noteworthy one was the, if I remember correctly, I believe it was the former king of Drum Kingdom. He was the first one. And after him, Crockett, I think he did briefly appear on the ship. I don't remember if he did or not. But some of the main villains do appear on the ship, but not a lot of them do. But Big Mom, wow. And it is something that basically how big she is, like, not just I'm talking about waist, basically how tall she is. She's almost as tall as the crew's nest. That's how big Big Mom is. And she's actually the reason why she's so big. And not because of her basically putting on weight, because all the sweets she eats. No. The reason why she's so tall, because she was a subject to experiments of gigantism. Yes. She was basically artificially created to be that way. Well, basically her height, that is. Though oddly enough, her parents have never been in present day. I think they'd be shocked at the fact that their only daughter, who basically cuts a lot of trouble in their hometown, would have about 100 kids. Yeah, that's Big Mom for you, because she loves kids. And he has kids like freaking crazy. Yep. So, most everything here is mostly our... Oh, by the way, Benji basically just takes the ship to a nearby island so Big Mom can eat the cake, no problem. And, well, that's pretty much it, mostly for the cake. Then mostly, in case you're curious, next batch episode will wrap up the Hunger Ping stuff. Now you might be thinking, what plot thread is wrapped up here in these episodes? Well, I'd say it's one plot thread, and that's basically Sanji when he is away dealing with the cake. That whole thing with the cake, for him, that's all wrapped up. He's basically back in the Sunny full time. He's not leaving the ship again for the rest of the arc. And this is a crew most been reunited. Well, they have not been reunited until the very next arc of this. Actually, the 2 arcs of this one. But yeah, really good set of episodes, and I can't wait for the next set of episodes, which will wrap up this whole cake arc. By the way, do you have one of the episodes? I think it was the last episode, kind of toward the end of it, where you have Benji contacted Perospero to talk about. Of course, Perospero was actually shocked the fact that the cake looked exactly what we did for a tea party. Like, every last detail. They even have, like, prior to this, like, I've also got to mention here, that Sanji put the final touches on top. The cake's like a climb on top of the cake itself to basically deal with this. So, he basically says, give me a pastry bag. It's like, okay. Then he proceeds to his moonwalk. Yes, this very moonwalk that allows him to fly, which makes him probably the only member of the Straw Hats who actually can actually really fly. Well, float anyways. And proceed to use that ability to put flowers, basically liquid flowers on top of this cake. I'm like, damn. That was actually pretty smart of him to do. Yeah. But love these episodes, and I can't wait for the very next episodes. Okay, so that's a particular. I've cut 3 more videos I'm going to do for the moment, and I'm hopefully get a chance to do. Next will be the next anime I'm going to discuss will be My Hero Academia. Excuse me. But I'm also going to be discussing, well, of course, doing Comic Core next. I'm also discussing a new chapter for One Punch Man because that just came out just today. And also, I'm hoping to get time to talk about Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun. I'm hoping to discuss that one. Okay, next video. Bye.